Hi and welcome back to my channel. Ever since the beginning of this year, I've been on this little journey to try and find manga series that I enjoy, and I've previously tried Call Me Can't Communicate, which wasn't such a success, but after that I read One Piece and Spy Family. I both read 3 volumes each and I really enjoyed it, so hopefully today we'll get to find another manga series that I actually like. So today I'm going to be trying Sailor Moon. I got 3 volumes from the library and I'm really excited to try this one. Sailor Moon is such a childhood icon that I'm really excited to finally read the mangas. I'm really eager to see how this one is going to hold up because it's over 30 years old now. So I'm going to be reading volumes 1 to 3 this video, and I'm going to start of course with volume 1. I'm going to let you know all my thoughts and we're going to see if this is going to be a new favorite series of mine. So at the end of this video I want to be able to answer these 4 questions, which are: did I enjoy this manga? How did this manga hold up after 30 years of being published? Is it appropriate? Which is a very important point for me to be able to enjoy and continue this series. And lastly, do I recommend that you read this manga? So hopefully at the end of this video we can answer all those questions. So I'm gonna start reading now and let's see what I think of it. Hi, it's the next day and I finished Sailor Moon Volume 1, so now I can finally tell you what the story is actually about. I went in pretty blind yesterday, but now I'm all caught up and I know my Sailor Moon lore. So in Sailor Moon we follow this little girl called Usagi Tsukino, and Usagi actually means rabbit in Japanese and Tsukino means of the moon. So Usagi is a normal girl, she just goes to school, and then one day she gets approached by a talking cat who tells her that she's actually a guardian who needs to protect the world from evil, and they need to find other guardians as well to be able to protect the world and find this crystal that has a lot of power in it. And the enemy wants the crystal for themselves, so they need to protect the crystal and therefore protect the world from evil. So Sailor Moon is basically a mix between Totally Spies and Winx Club. It has the secret hidden identity of Totally Spies, but then the glamour and the magical elements of Winx. They even do the transformation that the Winx Club always does. I would have loved to read this when I was a child. It's so cool, it's so awesome, and I think it actually sets a great example for girls, which I wasn't expecting to get. I was kind of skeptical at first. I was like, is this just going to be another story where girls behave inappropriately and it's just fan service all over again? But actually this book is really good and it has a lot of things that set a great example for little girls. Usagi is such a girl's girl. She is amazing. She's nice to every girl, even girls she doesn't know, and she constantly compliments them on what makes them unique. So there's this one girl who's really smart and she's really good at gaming, and there's this one girl who's very muscular and very strong and good at sports, and Usagi is pretty normal character, she's pretty bland, but then she sees all these girls who really excel at something and she just immediately goes up to them and says, I think you're so cool and you're so good at that. And she is the blueprint for a girl's girl. She is so supportive of every girl. She is so amazing. She compliments every girl. She's so nice to them. And I think we need more of this energy in the world. Sailor Moon constantly compliments these girls without feeling bad about herself. And I think that's something that's so important, that little girls learn to support other girls and not see it as a competition, and really teach people to be nice and to celebrate what makes them unique and not to see it as a competition or something to be envious of. So Usagi starts gathering these girls who are also guardians, and together they form this team of guardians to protect the world. And I love that every guardian is so unique. One person excels at sports, one is very smart, one is very romantic, and even though one is more like masculine than the other, they still wear these beautiful dresses and they still are so nice to each other, and you just truly see that everyone can get along regardless of what they look like or what they're good at. I also want to say that I think it's very important that the villain is kind of similar to Sailor Moon in a way. She could have been one of the guardians as well. She looks kind of similar. She's just a tall, slim woman, and I think it's important that the villain physically looks kind of similar to Sailor Moon, because usually in animes or Disney stories, the protagonist is often beautiful and skinny, and the villain is usually bigger or has these very distinctive features, so you associate their body and their physical features with being evil or being bad. And I think that's such a problem, whereas here the villain and the protagonist physically look quite similar, where you learn that being good or being evil has nothing to do with your physical appearance. It has to do with the way you act and the way you talk and your morals. So I think that's a very important message, and I'm very happy that this book portrays the villain in that way. I think it's a very cool idea to think about, that the villain could have been one of the guardians. I don't know if that's going to be explored more in the series, but I think that's a cool thought. I think my only critique of the book so far is that it's just very repetitive. This book is split into 7 chapters. But basically every chapter the same thing happens. So by chapter 3 I was just like, I'm reading the same story over and over again, and it's getting kind of repetitive and stale. On the back it says that this book is rated 13 and over, and I think the story is a little too repetitive for 13-year-olds or even older. I think if I was 13 I would notice that the story just continues to have the same plot over and over again, and by episode 5 I would guess what is going on, and I would predict what happens in episode 6 and 7, and I'm not sure if there are going to be any more plot twists, but I'm hoping that there are going to be some other patterns or not a new villain or something that is going to keep it fresh and keep it going. But that is my only critique right now. I'm loving this so far. It's making me really happy, which is just a fantastic feeling, and I love when books make me happy. I love the characters, I love the messages that are in here, I love the art style. The art style is so beautiful. There's so much detail in the outfits as well, which I really appreciate. So I'm just gonna continue reading volume 2, and I'll let you know once I have more thoughts. Hi, I'm back and I finished reading all 3 volumes of Sailor Moon. Wow, this was one heck of a journey. I want to start off by saying that I really enjoyed these books. So let's talk about the books individually. So of course I started off by reading volume 1, which kind of introduced us to the story and the characters. Each chapter we get introduced to another Sailor Guardian, and it's very beautiful, it's very cute. We meet all the Guardians and we see that they have such unique characters. They're all so different but still so gracious and beautiful. And we also get introduced to the love interest, of course. I definitely enjoyed volume 1 the most out of the 3. It got 4 stars from me. The only thing of critique that I could have is that the story is a little bit repetitive. When we're meeting the Sailor Guardians, we just get the same story all over again, but then for a different character. Then we go into volume 2 and we've met all the characters by now, so the storyline kind of goes over into the relationship between Sailor Moon and the love interest. And the relationship was actually really fun. It made me feel very warm and cozy inside, and it was definitely very romantic. I love the romance. However, in my mind, they were the same age. Usagi is 14 years old, so in my mind the love interest was also 14. However, this is not the case. So when I figured out that the love interest was actually 18 and there was quite a big age gap for that age, it got me kind of concerned, and I started looking at the romance in a very different way. I think it would have been way better if there was a more appropriate age gap for that time of life. If you don't think about the age gap, or you don't realize it like I did, it's very fun and it's very romantic and it's very nice to read about. If you like romance, then this is definitely for you, but the age gap is definitely kind of concerning, and that's why I give this book 3.5 stars. Then we go into volume 3, and this volume takes a whole different turn. I'm really happy that it didn't continue the same storylines as volume 1 and 2, because it was kind of getting repetitive and a little overused, and this volume starts a whole different story with a whole different villain, new characters, and I think that's very important. I think if it would have continued the same storyline, it would have gotten very boring. But no, it starts a different story. I think that's a very good decision. However, this storyline focuses more on a new character that's introduced, and I didn't really like that character at all. They're kind of a broken record. They can only say the same things over and over again, and their relationship with Sailor Moon is just very horrible, and there's a lot of relationship trouble between Sailor Moon and her love interest, and it's not talked about at all, and it's not properly solved. So I really didn't like that about it. I think this is my least favorite volume of the 3. The drawings were still amazing. These drawings are so beautiful, and wow, she's so talented. It's really gorgeous to look at. All of them are so cute. There's definitely a lot of attention to detail and clothing and highlighting what's important in the picture. So I really enjoyed that. That's definitely a plus of this series. It's so beautifully drawn. So I enjoyed the first book the most. I gave that one 4 stars, and the second and the third book got both 3.5 stars for me. I think I enjoyed the last one the least. It kind of went downhill with the volumes, so those are my ratings. Now, in the beginning of this video, I asked a couple of questions, so let's take a look at them. The first question was, do I like it? And I can definitely say I do like it. It was way beyond my expectations. It had a lot more depth to characters. A lot of the characters that were introduced were actually very interesting and unique, and I really enjoyed reading it. I flew through the books and I didn't want to put them down. They were so enjoyable. So I definitely would say that I really liked reading these. As I said, my enjoyment kind of went down with the volume, so I liked the first one definitely the best, but I would definitely say that I like these. And the second question is, did it hold up well after 30 years of being published? And that's an interesting question, because there were some inappropriate things in this book with the age gap, romance, and there was a lot of talk about viruses and stuff, which of course has always been around, but after the pandemic has been a major topic. I assume the age gap romance wasn't appropriate either 30 years ago, but it still isn't appropriate right now. However, superheroes are still very popular, so I feel like this series would do just as well today. I think there are a lot of fans of Sailor Moon still after 30 years, so I definitely think it holds up well. It doesn't have a lot of conversations that didn't age well, so I think it holds up pretty well. Now the third question was, is it appropriate? And I think this was the question that concerned me the most, because when you look at the cover you see the length of that clothing, and I was immediately so concerned with, yeah, is it going to be very inappropriate? Because I knew that Sailor Moon was very young, and I had the experience with Komi that young girls are often sexualized or shown in inappropriate ways, which I really didn't enjoy. Now, I think I said this before, but I really enjoyed that the girls had their own personality and that it wasn't focused on their bodies. Sometimes, of course, they were wearing very short things, like the cover, for example, but the book wasn't focused on that. Nobody was commenting on their bodies, and they weren't behaving in a sexual way, which was a relief to me. Now, I said this before, but the age gap was just very inappropriate to me. So I do think it gets some deduction points from that. It was not completely appropriate. She also gets kissed by some guy that she doesn't want to get kissed by, and there's some weird moments that happen. So, which actually brings us to the last question, which is, would I recommend this series to you? Now, if you cannot get past the inappropriateness that I just mentioned, then this book is not for you. If you don't like age gaps, then it's not for you. And if you don't really like romance books in general, then I would not recommend it, because it's very heavy on the romance. Now, if you want to read about superheroes who are saving the world, who have great fashion and are smart and strong and cute at the same time, and you want some nostalgia with it, I would definitely recommend this for you. As I said, it definitely reminds me of Totally Spies and Wings. So if you like that in your childhood and you want some nostalgia, I would definitely recommend it. The drawings are absolutely beautiful and the storyline is pretty good as well. So I would recommend this series. What I especially liked about these editions is that they have a guide in the back, which explains all the differences from the Japanese version to the English. So sometimes there are jokes made that go really well in Japanese, but they don't translate well to English, or there are topics that we just don't really know about because they're from Japanese culture and they're explained in the back. So that was really helpful and it made the reading experience much more enjoyable. So that was my review of Sailor Moon. Let me know if you liked it and let me know what you want me to read next. And I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!